Hey, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Shanae, and today I'm so excited to share with you one of my favorite childhood comfort foods. And this recipe is actually one of the popular recipes on my website. It's Russian pereshki. And I'm going to share with you my mom's tip for making the dough melt in your mouth, soft and delicious. You're going to love it, and it's a very simple trick that makes all the difference. So let's get to it. For the dough recipe, you will need flour, salt, a little bit vegetable oil, active dry yeast, and warm water. Instead of active dry yeast, you can actually use instant yeast, which makes it easier to use. I shared in my pizza dough recipe. You can simply combine it with your flour and mix the dough, but I wanted to share with you how to use active dry yeast, which is a little bit different, and I thought I would choose this one for making our dough today. To get started, I have 1 cup of warm water. You don't want to have it too hot. It has to be a certain temperature. If you dip your finger, it shouldn't be like, whoa, it's hot kind of feeling, right? It should be like warmer than your body temperature. And into the water, we're going to sprinkle in your active dry yeast and mix it. We'll let it sit for about 5 minutes and until we see bubbles develop on the top. And that means your yeast is proofed and is alive and ready to be used. If your yeast doesn't bubble up, it doesn't form any foam on top, that means you either killed your yeast with too hot water, or your water is too cold and it's not activating the yeast, or your yeast might be just old and bad and you will need to start with a different yeast. So I'm gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes and I'll be right back. So the yeast have some actions on top, and that means my yeast is alive and ready to be used. I'm going to mix it really well. And now I'm using my stand mixer, but you don't have to have a stand mixer. It just makes the process really easy. You can just hand knead them and use a bigger bowl to mix the dough. And I'm going to add my flour and salt in here, and then I'll add our water with yeast. This is the secret to that softest dough for the pirojki. It's a little bit oil. Mix in the oil into your dough and it will be really soft and delicious. It's a game changer. And then using our dough hook for your mixer, we'll mix it until it becomes a nice, soft, smooth dough. With this recipe, you want to make sure to lock your mixer so it doesn't go all crazy. I'm going to check the hydration of the dough and see if it's too stiff. Yeah, it's a little stiff. I'm going to add a little bit more water. It all depends on the climate and the day you are making the dough. For example, in drier days, your flours might need more water. In the humid areas, in humid climate, you might not need as much water. If you notice your dough is a little dry like so, feel free to add a tablespoon of water. Don't add too much, like just a tablespoon at a time. And if you find your dough is too soft, then you might need to add 1 tablespoon or so flour. So it all depends on the environment. So my dough is looking great, nice and smooth and perfectly soft. And now we need to let it rise in a warm place so that it at least doubles in size. There are 2 ways I like to proof my dough. One is you can simply oil the bowl a little bit and roll your dough in olive oil or something, and then cover it with a wet kitchen towel. And I like to microwave a tall glass of water in the microwave for 2 minutes to create really nice, humid, hot environment, and then place the bowl with the dough in the microwave. We're not going to turn it on or anything, and we're just using the microwave as an insulated box, warm box, and let it rise there for an hour or so. Another way, my latest favorite way, is to use an Instant Pot. If your Instant Pot has a yogurt setting, set it on a yogurt setting, and what I'll do is I'm gonna oil the bowl a little bit, with olive oil, or vegetable oil is fine too. Just a little bit. We're just trying to make the dough don't stick to the bowl too much, you know. This dough is actually really easy dough to work with. And then we'll place it in here, cover it, and let it rise for about 30 minutes. We want the dough double in size. Meanwhile, we're going to start making the filling. So let's get to it. So today I'm going to fill my pereshki with ground beef and leftover rice. You can also use mashed potatoes instead of the rice, or sauteed cabbage. Mushrooms are also great options. You can fill pereshki with pretty much anything you like, but ground beef and leftover rice or mashed potatoes are my go-to favorite fillings. And we'll start with sauteing some lean ground beef. I'm going to add a little bit olive oil and add your beef. Try not to stir your beef too much so that they can develop this beautiful brown bits, its flavor. And at this point, I'm going to add a little bit salt. And once your meat start releasing water, you know, steam, go ahead and stir it more. And once the meat is mostly browned, grate some fresh garlic and give it a good stir. Now off heat, we're going to add our rice and mix it really good. Now you can season your filling with whatever spices you like. I like to keep it simple. That's how I grow up, eating just simple food like this, and I like it this way. But you can add different spices. If you like spicy food, then you can add cayenne pepper, black pepper, and we'll cool it down while our dough is rising. And once this filling is cooled and our dough is double in size, we'll start putting them together. So my dough doubled in size. Look how nice and fluffy it is. And I'm going to turn it over here on the cutting board. You don't need flour. I actually don't like to use flour for rolling out the dough. Look how beautiful the dough is. It's perfect, soft, and it's not overly sticky. But if your dough is sticking to the board or to your hands, use a little bit oil. You can use olive oil or just vegetable oil, and then it won't stick. The reason I don't like to use flour is because when you have too much dry flour and when you deep fry it, all that flour will burn in the oil and it will create smoke and not good. So I like to form into a flat disc like so. Try to make it as evenly circle as possible, because I'm going to show you a nice trick how to divide that dough. We're going to make 12 hand pies from this recipe and cut in half. So I'm going to oil my knife too. Okay, and then cut it like this. We're going to cut it like pizza, basically, into 12 equal parts. And this way your dough is all the same size. And then form it into a ball. Once your dough balls are ready, go ahead and start heating up your oil, and then we're going to start filling the pereshki. I like to do the same thing with the filling. In order to divide the filling into equal amounts, I like to flatten the filling in a skillet like this and then divide it into 12 portions, as close as you want. You don't have to be really precise, really, honestly, but this helps to give you guidelines so that you don't overfill one pereshki and underfill the other ones. I don't usually use rolling pin for this. We just flatten it with hand. When it's about this size, put the filling in. To crimp the edges, you can do whatever way you want, but I just like to crimp one side from one side, take one from other side, like so. You can just simply pinch it together too. Just make sure they're really tightly wrapped. And then gently flatten it like this, and then seam side down. I'm going to oil a little bit so that it doesn't stick to the board. Okay, one is down, 11 more to go. So all my hand pies are shaped and I'm heating up my oil. You want your oil to be at around 350 degrees. And while my oil is heating up, I also prepared a cooling rack lined with paper towel so that we can drain the cooked pereshki right on the paper towel to drain excess oil. Now, it's really important to heat up your oil really well. And in order to know if your oil is ready, dip the end of wooden spoon, and if it bubbles up around the edges, then it's ready. Mine isn't bubbling up as fast as I would like to see. Now, if you don't heat your oil hot enough and you drop the pereshki in, your dough will absorb a lot of oil and it will just get too oily, too greasy, too heavy. And if you heat up your oil way too much, then your pereshki will be cooked on the outside. It gets nice and golden, but not cooked all the way through, like inside dough won't be cooked. So it's really important to keep your oil at the same temperature as possible. And the best way is to use a thermometer, of course. But again, if you have a wooden spoon, you can test it that way. Never ever put water, drop any water or anything, because you're just asking for trouble. So my oil is ready. When the bubbles come out rapidly like this around the wooden spoon, that means the oil is hot enough for us to cook the pereshki. And gently drop 4 pereshki at a time, depending on the size of your pan. If you add too much pereshki at a time, your oil temperature will drop rapidly, and again, your pereshki will absorb too much oil and will heavy. And we're cooking the pereshki for 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Once it's nice and golden brown, go ahead and gently turn them. And fry for another 3 minutes or so. Okay, my pereshki is ready. Look how beautiful. Transfer it onto a paper towel and continue with the rest of the pereshki, and I'll come back to taste test with you. All right, my pereshki is all cooked and smells so delicious. I can't wait to dive in. So let's just get right into it. Look how fluffy. So good. Piping hot though. So good. You can serve it with dipping sauces or like ketchup or whatnot. It's up to you, but straight away it's really delicious too. Super soft. The dough is so soft, it's so good. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.